Shader. What is it and how do we use it? In this video, we'll take a look at the so-called shader. I'll explain what it actually is and how to use it. We'll also go over some basic concepts that will help you across different render engines, but as usual on this channel, we'll mainly focus on Blender. Hello everyone, welcome back to another tutorial, this time again aimed at the complete beginners, like I promised you back in our mini pancake course where we already touched on shaders and played around with them a little, but here I would like to dive in a bit deeper. So before we start, let's define what is shader. A shader is a term that often gets used when talking about materials, especially procedural ones. For example, if you make a wood material and you put it on any shape, then it automatically looks like wood, darkening the cracks, brightening the edges. Then many people call that a shader, but technically that's not quite correct. A shader lives inside a material. It's basically a little script that defines how the surface of an object behaves when light hits it. Every shader can handle this interaction in a slightly different way. How the light bends, what shortcuts it uses for calculations, and what sliders it exposes to us so we can control it. So in short, a shader defines how the surface reacts to light, and the person who created that shader decides which parameters we get to play with. On the other hand, a material is a combination of one or more shaders with values and textures already plugged in and controlling the parameters which sets the look of the material. So in Blender, shaders are marked with green. When you add a new object in Material Graph and check the shader section, you'll see a whole bunch of them. By default, Blender gives you principled BSDF shader. That's the one you will see first when you create a new material. It has a lot of parameters compared to older versions of Blender, where things were way simpler. So it can look a bit intimidating at first, but it's really not that bad once you understand the basics. And I'm here to explain them step by step. So let's do it. Base color. Base color is, as you can probably guess, just simply the color. You will pick whatever you want and that will be assigned to the model. Most of the time, you'll plug in a texture, and that texture could either be so-called albedo, which is just pure color information, or sometimes diffuse, which has baked-in shadows. Diffuse textures can sometimes help bring out details, but they're not really realistic, and it's more of a trick that saves you from having to worry too much about perfect lighting. Now let's look at the metallic. This one can get a little trickier, but let's keep it simple. When you have reflections on a shader, there are a bunch of parameters to play with, and to get proper metallic look, we used to have pretty hard times doing it. So to simplify this, some smart people invented something called the metallic workflow, and as the name suggests, it's for metal surfaces. It sets up those complex parameters for you so things look metallic without you having to tweak everything by hand. Nowadays, thanks to metallic, you can often get away with just 3 textures for a good basic material. Generally, you want to keep this value at either 0 or 1. Roughness. Roughness is exactly what it sounds like. It's how rough the surface is. The higher the value, the rougher the surface, and therefore less shiny it looks. Some shaders don't call it roughness though, they might use something like smoothness or glossiness instead, which is basically the same thing but flipped, because the higher values make them more smooth, while in roughness it means more rough. So whenever you have a texture that was roughness and you go elsewhere, flip the texture, and it should work. IOR. IOR stands for Index of Refraction. This is all about how light bends when it passes through material like glass or lenses. It's a number that directly affects how objects look when seen through that material. At IOR 1, it's like there's no glass at all. For most materials, the correct IOR values are already known, and you can look them up, but from an artistic point of view, you can tweak them however you like. I also want to point out this affects general reflectivity as well. Not just see-through materials, but it's just not as noticeable unless you get very high values. Alpha. Alpha is simply transparency, nothing more. It doesn't calculate light bending like glass does. It's more like, does this part of the material exist or does it not? We often use it for things like leaves. You make a square plane, plug in an alpha texture, and the white parts are visible while the black parts are invisible. Normal map. We already touched on normal maps in our little pancake course. Normals add detail to a surface, but it's not a real geometry, it's just a light trick. A normal map just alters how light reflects off the surface to fake the detail. That means that from the front it looks like the detail is there, but you look from the side, you'll see it's actually just a flat plane, or whatever was originally there. Most of the time you will be plugging some texture in here. The only thing you need to look out for is whether the normal texture is OpenGL or DirectX. The difference in them is a green channel which has to be flipped. So for Blender it's OpenGL, but some software like Unreal Engine uses DirectX. Diffuse Roughness. This one can be a bit harder for beginners, but don't worry. Remember how roughness controls shininess? Well, diffuse roughness works on the very base layer of the material, before all the other parameters apply. To understand this, you need to know that these parameters that we are using are layers, and they don't work all at once, they sit on top of each other. So a diffuse roughness is a first layer, and at 0 is perfectly smooth. At 1 it's more like a sand or a dry powdery surface, like brick or anything dusty. The regular roughness that we discussed sits on top of that. It's a bit confusing, I know, but with practice you'll get it. And in short, if your material is very dry, just crank this up. Otherwise, leave it at 0. It's more like a subtle realism tweak rather than a must-have setting. Subsurface. You probably already know subsurface scattering, shortly SSS. It's that effect where strong light shines through skin and you can see a reddish glow, like on your ears or fingers. What happens is, light hits the surface, and instead of just bouncing back or being absorbed, it goes inside, scatters around, and then exits again. That's also why it often looks soft and slightly translucent. We've got a few parameters here, so let's start with the weight. Weight means how much all the subsurface settings affect the material. If you have experience from 2D, then you can think of it like opacity in 2D layers. 0 is none, 1 means fully visible. Radius. Radius has 3 values, and these are RGB values for how far each color of light penetrates inside. For a skin, red goes deepest, which is why the skin looks reddish when backlit. If I had a green gummy bear, I would probably want the green to penetrate more. Fun fact: this is also why we can see blue veins through skin. It's because red light scatters too deep, while blue and green stay closer to the surface, and therefore you are left with blue and green at the top. Scale. Scale, that's an easy one. It's a multiplier for the radius. Think of it just like making it all stronger or weaker. If it works well on a larger object, but not a smaller one, then you can adjust this value and set it to something like 0.01. Anisotropy. This one, it's a bit more advanced, but let's simplify again. When anisotropy is at 0, then the material is isotropic, meaning it's uniform, like a glass, and light scatters the same in all directions. At 1, it's anisotropic, meaning the light has harder time traveling through. It doesn't scatter evenly and tends to move more in a straight direction. In practice, when you add SSS, it usually softens the whole material. But if you increase the anisotropy, the material looks more solid, and you'll see the translucency in really thin areas. Alright, this would be all for this part. I think I already talked long enough, so let's finish it here and do the rest next time. Hope you liked it. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the second part, and let me know in the comments if something wasn't clear or if you have some more questions about the materials. Keep in mind, this is full beginner video, therefore I'm simplifying things as much as possible, but you can definitely go much deeper technically, although I would like to save that for later. Please make sure to check out all the links below, and I'll see you next time.